We always have one life guardian who's the primary go-between between our higher self and our personal self, and sometimes it's just the life guardian that I speak to. Other times there'll be other messages come from different angels. The first image that I see is of a very interesting image. It's an image of a beekeeper and a beehive, and it's a symbol for something. The beekeeper, as all beekeepers are, is covered head to foot in protective gear, and a hive, when the bees are in the hive, is a contained, it's like a generator. There's all this energy and purpose, and good things come from it, and it hums along, it works very well. But if you were to go along with a stick and hit the outside of the hive, then the bees would come swarming out, and if you were not protected in the suit of the beekeeper, then you'd get stung. And they're using this image of the hive and the bees as a metaphor for your mind. They say that think of the mind as being a powerful generator for good. You can end up with honey, or for ill, you can end up stung by thousands of bees. And so just as the beekeeper has to take charge of the hive and work with precision and no sudden movements and protective gear, so you need to begin to learn to harness the power of your mind in a positive way, rather than be assaulted by the wild, angry bees, so to speak, which are the negative thought, the speech, the anger, the hostility, the flip that you talked about, the sort of going out of the peaceful into this other mode. And they say that in a normal hive situation, bees normally are not aggressive creatures. They have work to do, they have their colony, they have their organised arena, but if they are disturbed, and particularly if they are disturbed in a very aggravating manner, then they can become lethal. And the same is true of the mind, that the mind is a very useful tool for life when it's harnessed well. So the beekeeper is a symbol for your soul. The soul needs to harness the hive in order to get the honey. You need to harness and make the best use of the mind in order to get well-being and insight and feel a sense of purpose and in charge and control in your life. So therefore you have to be aware of the fact that certain outer stimuli are as aggravating as someone hitting the beehive with a stick. And your family relationships are being likened to that aggravation. I can't quite see why. I feel like I've been stung by a bee in the kind of left eye. If you were stung by a bee in the left eye, the eye would puff up, and it'd swell up, and you'd have a reaction. You wouldn't be able to see things clearly. And so that's what's happening around the family dynamic. You're very easily stung by the sharp retorts or the comments or the judgment or the criticism, and then you go into a reactive mode where you can't see things clearly. You can't see what's up or down or black or white or in or out. Yes. There's something to do with the back of the throat chakra that's not quite right. When I say not quite right, I'm just having a look so I can pick it up. Think of the physical body as having its counterpart parts, almost like the invisible aura that's around the body. And the physical body has 7 inlet points. Think of them like plugs that you plug the power source into the 7 inlet points, and if you've got a plug that in a house that's not working well and a child accesses it, they can become electrocuted, or anybody accesses it. Yeah? These plugs are meant to be earthed and therefore safe, but if there's something wrong with the wiring of one of the inlet points, the plugs, in this case the back of your throat chakra, literally at the back of the neck, then there's a loose wire that means that it's dangerous to yourself and to others. It's a bit like this sort of image of the bees becoming wild, coming out of the beehive to attack and to harm you and harm others and to sting and all of that. I can't quite see why the throat chakra has been damaged. I'm just going to ask the question. And one of your guides, I think it's your life guardian, says very clearly the word abuse. I don't know what he means by abuse. But I have this feeling of dread. Abuse can mean many things. There's physical abuse, psychological, sexual. There's abuse of the spiritual powers. There's abuse of the power of speech. There's something that is hidden, and what I mean by hidden is I can't see the specific source of this abuse. It seems, I would say that it's not from this lifetime, but that it's from another lifetime, and that there's a distorted energy around power and the throat, and being believed and speaking up for things that are important, and of course what happens is sometimes in past lives we've had, let's say for instance when you talk about the depression and having a clinical diagnosis and medication, that's the way the 20th or the 21st century deals with such an issue. But in past times, in medieval times for instance, a person was simply, labelled mad, lunatic, all kinds of labels, and isolated and shut away and stigmatised. And I can see that there's a connection between the current lifetime where there's this sort of unstable energy around the throat and some previous, I can't see exactly the date, feels medieval, stigma associated with being labelled lunatic, being labelled not balanced, and being therefore potentially dangerous to oneself and dangerous to others. They mention this just to help you understand that at birth we are a combination of energies, positive and negative, some neutral, from a long line of experience, soul experience, past physical incarnations. So we don't come as a blank slate. We come with colours and frequencies and history and subconscious issues and certain talents. And so this issue of being stigmatised and therefore separated to do with, let's call it lunacy, words from the past, is something that you have carried with you might say, on a genetic level. And so there's a genetic predisposition to the mad bees getting loose, to the stinging mind bringing the personal self undone. So, if you knew this, if a person understood this at birth or even in adolescence, then one would say, well, clearly what the soul wants, clearly what the beekeeper wants, is to learn to take charge of the hive, to learn to take charge of the mind. In order to take charge of the mind, first you need to recognise that there is the lower mind, the bees, and there is the higher mind. The intuition, the inspirations, the dreams, the sense of knowing, a sense of destiny or purpose that is as positive and as stable as the wild bees are erratic and unstable. So, how to take charge of the mind. Talk about doing no harm. Well, first of all, this golden symbol. You might think of it as a symbol, the cross. You visualise the golden cross and you see yourself seated within a golden egg. Energy follows thought. If you do this every day, you will move towards wellness. Absolutely guaranteed. Imagine, for instance, a person who has let's say 2 sets of clothes and they don't care for them well, it wouldn't take much for that person to end up threadbare and or unprotected from the harsh elements of nature. So in terms of spiritual clothing, the golden cross and the golden egg clothes you with spiritual protection. If you do it intermittently, so like sometimes being cold, sometimes being exposed to the elements, sometimes feeling okay. If you do it regularly, then it builds into the aura protection. Interested they use the word gold, the energy of gold, because that's the nature of honey. It's the golden nectar of the bees. It's the essence that comes when you've harnessed and used the colony of bees without aggravation. So your soul is extremely interested in you taking control of the mind. So first, seal the fortress. Use the golden light, use the golden egg. Then find words that resonate with who you really are. I am worth loving. I am love. Simple words. Words that you say to yourself when you get lost or you find yourself out on a limb or aggravated or about to attack or explode. Mantric words. I am peace. Peace comes to me now. Whatever the words are. Simple, very short phrases. Okay? Put them in places where you're going to see them. In a diary around the house until they become automatic. It's like when you learn to drive, you program into the subconscious and into the rational mind. Yellow means prepare to stop, green means go, red means stay put. So you need to begin to program into the rational mind the simple phrases. I am love, I am peace, nothing can harm me, nothing can upset me. Prayer, and I'm just wondering where it is. See if I can find this little prayer. Nothing can harm me. Nothing can disturb me. Nothing can upset me. For I am a child of Maitreya. That's the name for the next Buddha who will be coming to earth, or you could say a child of love. And so live in his heart. His shielding embrace protects me by day and by night and my family as well. The only thing he asks of me is that I love him, or I love love, and that I love the world in which I reside. Then there is only light, and I am that light. This is like putting on a suit of golden armour. If you work with the golden visualization and you say this decree of protection, nothing can harm me, then energy follows thought and you will attract to you a harmless energy and the mind will become stilled. So you have to work with this or other mantric sentences that begin to take charge of the mind. I have this sort of image of a graph, and it's like a sliding scale from kind of 10 to 0. Let's see if I can draw what I'm seeing. It's so if there's one that goes like that, and there's one that goes like that. So if this is the scale of, let's call that lunacy, 10. And let's call this peace. Then let's call this love or self-love. Let's call this harm or self-harm. The opposite of love. So this here is the beehive. This is the protective sphere you place yourself in by visualising golden light and by working with positive mantras. And then the negativity associated with whether it's lunacy or the world or harm, this is the wild bees. Okay? It can't affect you because you're in here. So you could say that what we have here is building a temple of peace and of self-love. And that if there's one thing that your soul wants you to do this lifetime, it is to build this temple. Because the world's full of harm, negativity, wild beasts, so to speak. But you can choose to reside within the temple of peace. And you may not always succeed, but if you continue to choose it, and that's where your will comes in. You see the will of the personality. We can harm ourselves, or we can give up. Things are too difficult, go stressed, lose our mind, go mad. Yeah? That's just the personal will. It's just, what happens with the bees and the beekeeper is that if the bees get out of control, if the mind goes out of control, then the beekeeper, the soul, picks up the smoke, and they smoke the bees to calm and sedate them. Yeah? So there's different kinds of things you can use for the smoke. You can use the medication. So you can have the high potency medication up there. Oh no, so I've gone the wrong way, sorry. You can have the high potency medication that will take you into peace here, or you can have no meds up here where you're at the mercy of the mad world. But then you see that there's a point where, on a scale of, let's say, the 0 to 10, if 10 is no medication and 0 is totally medicated, you can see that there's a point, let's call it 6, where you begin to enter into your own self-regulating. You begin to be able to regulate your own peace and your own self-love and your own joy. Yeah? So that's a goal, is to be able to work with the energy of decrees and prayer and visualization as a self-medicating spiritual practice, not to the exclusion of medication, but something that will actually help and somewhere down the track begin to replace some level of medication. You see? So because there's different ways of entering into this temple of sanity, this temple of peace, this temple of love. But you have to choose it, you have to will it, you have to want it. And you see, your higher self, your soul, can only point the suggestion, point the direction. But you have to choose, you have to will, you have to commit to self-healing and continue to committing. Then you have to be mindful of the back of the throat. There's this sort of damage to the. In the ideal world, the honey is stored within, and they call it the beehive, is sealed. But if you've got a hole, you don't know how it got there. It's the back of the throat. Yeah? But for whatever reason, there's an energetic hole. It's a bit like having a house where you've locked every door, but you never close that back window. Energetically, the place is not secure. Energetically, because of this damage that comes from this past lives and persecution associated with lunacy, this is a vulnerable area for you. Physically, you might pick up a cold or wind might come in there, but on many other levels, you can be around an unbalanced person or a lot of other things going on, and before you know it, you feel unbalanced because it's come in through this what is actually an etheric tear in the aura. If you go to the hospital and they say, oh look, you've got a problem here, we'll need to put a bandage on it, you've got to leave that on it for could be a week. If you just ignore them, the bacteria will come in and that part of the body will not heal. Exactly the same things happen with the aura. which is why it's so important that you work with golden light, and particularly that you wear gold if you can. It could be a golden chain around the neck, or a golden scarf, because this part of the aura is an unconscious, subconscious entry point for negativity that's not yours and not yours. So you might say systemic and your own. It's a bit like a vacuum cleaner. You've got to clear the filter or you'll burn the engine out. If the filter at the back of the throat has been damaged, as it has been, then you keep going into burnout. And things happen to you that don't happen to other people, and it doesn't make sense. But it's fixable. You think of the medication the doctor might give you. This medication is like the bandage they'll give you at the hospital. Here, put that on there and leave it for a while. But if you work with spiritual practices, prayers, affirmation, healing, visualization, then gradually the aura is healed. And you're in the sphere of peace and wellness. Okay, let's just ask the question about, you talked about alcohol and, sort of the self-harm. Let's see what they've got to say about that. Look, if you were stung by 100 bees, you'd want to be anaesthetised. Anybody would want to be anaesthetised. Take me out of the pain. So the sensible thing to do is to not get stung. Then you don't need to be anaesthetised. If you don't fix the issue with the mind attack and the invasion from external, then it's too hard. Get me out of here. I'd rather be anaesthetised. So there's no point trying to deal with the alcohol without following it to its source of, I feel attacked by my own mind, or attacked by the negative thinking or energy or words or spoken or unspoken stuff of other people that I pick up that then clogs up my filter and shuts me down. So you've got to be very careful who you associate with. People who are allergic to bees, they don't go wandering around in lavender farms. People who are allergic to mobile phones, stay away from the electromagnetic. People who are allergic to peanut butter, examine the menu in the Thai restaurant. If you're allergic, shall we say, to the invasion of negativity, yours and other people's, then you've got to be careful of the people and the environment that you put yourself in. So highly charged emotional environments, family environments, where there's a lot of spoken and unspoken criticism, condemnation, love mixed up with judgment, you can come away feeling shut down, blocked up, the filter's clogged. Similarly, you can do it to yourself. You'll be feeling fine, feeling happy, feeling well. Something happens. All of a sudden, you're outside the beehive, and there's this sort of unpredictable energy. And then before you know it, you've negative thought, negative feeling, negative judgment, negative criticism, shut down. So associate with people who lift your spirit. And associate with somebody who's inclined to depression or inclined to negativity or inclined to judgment. We're all human, we all have a capacity and tendency for that. But someone with a preponderance of those things just clogs the filter. If you pick it up from an external source, could be family, could be something else, and you come home, don't just come home and stay in the shutdown. come home and go, okay, well I have to self-medicate with golden light. Have to self-medicate by reading a book that's uplifting, or putting on music that lifts my mood, or changing my colours that I'm wearing into something bright, or using an essential oil. You have to self-medicate with the spiritual tools instantly. If the person was stung by 10 bees, you don't wait 3 days to see if it'll swell up. You find the antidote. Simple as that. You need to find the antidote whenever it happens and be proactively involved in that. So you could say that as far as, let's say, alcohol and drinking, there's the part of the personal self that wants to be anaesthetised, that wants to drink. But then there's the part of your higher self, who is the I am presence, the holy self, that wants internal peace and internal self-love. So you have to give that to yourself instead of the self-medicating for anaesthetising the self. So there's choice. How do I give to myself approval, love, joy, spiritual tools that uplift me, association with people that lift my mood, or do I feel attacked, unworthy, and anaesthetise with alcohol? It's a choice. All the groups in the world won't work until the inner choice is made. Once the inner choice is made, any group will help. Could be the Alcoholics Anonymous, could be a dance group, could be a meditation group, could be a drawing group. Once the inner decision to stand and support yourself is made, then group work, any group work, fabulous. If you don't make that inner decision, any group won't work. It's the internal commitment that sends out the message. I'm either choosing to heal myself, or I'm at the mercy of the mad world. Okay. I have this image. Well, I think what they're showing me is brain waves. They have machines where you can measure brain waves, but we can't actually see them with the eye, which doesn't mean to say that we're not constantly sending out a pulse of brain waves. If 2/3 of the things we think are judgmental or negative, then we will attract the bees, the smog. If 2/3 of the things that we think are the opposite, then we will attract the opposite. So this is how one takes charge of the mind. Choose what you think. Sounds simple, it's not easy. As soon as you decide, today I'm going to only say positive things about myself, then the mind will come up with all the negative things. Oh yes, but this and but that, and all the reasons why. That's a load of hoo-ha. You see, because the higher self believes in self-love and the personal self doubts it. The personal self has a view that the world is hostile. That's its belief. Can't help it. That's the belief it has. The world is hostile. It's not the truth. It's just a belief. So you either believe that, and then you numb yourself, or you isolate yourself, or you harm yourself, or you choose to believe that the world has love for me, or some other mantra. And every time you find your mind going over there, the world is hostile, you go, oh no, that's right, that's the old way, that's the way I used to think. And you retrain the mind to look towards the light, the golden light, the protection for you and your children, And so be it. It doesn't happen overnight, but slowly, your internal reality will be matched by the external. So create your destiny. So this is the task that has been set you by your soul, is to take charge of the mind. It's not an easy task, but it's your task.